In this video, I'm going to walk you through Word Module 8, End of Module Project 1. We're going to be collaborating on a memo with charts for our Boulder Game Studio. The first thing you need to do is download the start file. The start file, you need to change the end of your start file from a 1 to a 2. Then you need to download the 2 supporting files provided to you by Cengage. Those are named ending in Platforms and Sanderson. And then you need to also make sure your name displays in the footer of your start file. If it doesn't, make sure you delete it from your computer or your flash drive, download it again, and work on your new file. Otherwise, the grader will have an issue reading that. All right, let's start with step 1. In step 1, we're a marketing assistant for Boulder Game Studio, a video game developer in Boulder, Colorado. Brian Sanderson's the VP of Marketing. He asked us to draft a memo, so we've done that. It's already together. And another VP, Rosa, has already reviewed and revised the memo, and now she wants to incorporate revisions from Brian before sending the memo to him for final review. So what we have are 2 separate versions of one file, which happens sometimes. 2 different people can be working on the same thing. And so what we are going to do is bring in Brian's information from his file, his changes and the things he's marked on the document. And so what we are doing is our file is Rosa's and Brian's is the supporting file. So we're going to bring in Brian's revisions into our start file. So let's go to our start file. And that's not what I want. There we go. Here is our start file. So here's our memo, and we're going to make some changes to it. So we're going to combine by bringing in Brian's information. So to do that, we are going to go to the Review tab, and then on the right, we're going to click the arrow under Compare. So we can either compare documents from multiple people or we can combine them, and we are going to combine. Once we click on Combine, we have to know what's the original document and what's the revised. So the original document is our start file. So I'm going to browse and I'm going to go to my downloads and I'm going to find my start file. Now make sure you find your start file wherever you're at. So this is Rose's version of the document is our starting file. So I'm going to say open. So the original document for combination is going to be our start file. Then we have the revised document. So I'm going to click the down arrow for that. We're going to browse, and then I'm going to go to my downloads, and I'm going to find the Sanderson file because we're bringing in Brian Sanderson's information into Rosa's, which is AKA ours. And I'm going to click open. And then the next thing I need to do is go down to the more button. And I am going to tell it that we are going to show the changes in the original document. So our start file. So down here, we're going to click the radio button that says the original document. Once we're done, we're going to click OK. You're going to see a pop-up that says Word can only store one set of formatting changes. Keep formatting changes from the first one or the second one. We're going to keep it with our start file, and then we're going to continue with merge, and then it's going to think, and then it brought mine over on the other screen, so let me bring it back. So what we have here on the left is the merged document. So we have 2 different versions of the document, and what we have is the merged one on the left, everything brought together, and over on the right it shows you what 2 documents were merged into one. So we have our start file and then Brian Sanderson's. Once you're done with that, all you have to do is close out these 2 windows on the right, and then we're back to our merged document. And this is different than the mailings that we've done in a previous module. This is merging documents together to review. All right, so that's step 1. Now we are on to step 2, and let me highlight this as we go. So in step 2, we're going to display all markup if necessary, and then accept the first track change from Brian, which adds text to the subject line. We're going to reject the next track change, which inserts improvements because it's repetitious, We're going to accept the next track change, which is from Rosa, and inserts the word revisions to clarify the sentence. Then we're going to accept the remaining changes in the document because they improve the content. So let's first go do the first one. So we're going to display all markup. To display all markup, we are going to be on the Review tab. Over in the Tracking gallery, we have a drop down at the top right that says Simple Markup. We're going to change this to All. So we're going to change this to All Markup so we can see all the different changes between the two. And then we're going to work through the different ones. So it says in the instructions, we're going to accept the first track change from Brian. So let's go back to our document. Look for the first one right here from Brian. This is his, hold on, let me back up. Let me read that again. First track change from Brian, which adds text to the subject line. Just want to make sure we have the right one. Okay, so here's the subject line. Now, his is in purple. If you hover over it, his is in purple. And then the red one is ours, which would have been Rosa's. And so this is what happens when you have multiple people work on one document. It gives every person a different color. Now, the great thing is you can go in and change these colors, and you can change your color to whatever you want. For now, we're just going to go with the colors they have. So we're going to right click on, there's two ways you can do this. You can right click, or you can come up here to accept or reject. But we are going to accept this change, and I like to right click. So I right clicked, I'm going to accept insertion, and then it's going to take the color away. So we change the date. The next thing we're going to do is reject the next track change. So we're done here. We've done this part. Now we're going to reject the next track change, which inserts improvements and. So going back, we've got right here, improvements and. From Brian, we don't want to accept that change. We want to leave it what it is. So we're going to right click on this, and we're going to reject his insertion into the document. Right, so that's the next one. It's repetitious, and we don't want to make too many lines repetitious. The next thing we're going to do is accept the next track change, which is from Rosa, and inserts the words revisions. So let's go back to our document, find the one for Rosa. Here we go. And then we are going to, let me make sure I read this right. We are going to accept this one because we want to use that word. So I'm going to right click on the word, accept that insertion. And so we are done with that part. And then the last piece we have is that we are going to accept the remaining changes in the document because they improve the content. And to do that, there's a couple different ways. We could click on each one of them and accept. We can come up here and we can accept and move to the next one. We can accept all, and we can accept all and track changes. So I'm just going to accept all to accept the rest of the changes that are in the document because we know that they improve the content. So I'm going to accept all the changes. Okay, now all the changes from the body of the document are gone. All we have left are these comments that are off to the side of the document. Okay, so that's step 2 is done. Step 3, with track changes turned on. Now, how do we know if track changes is turned on? We come back to the Review tab over here on in the Tracking gallery. Track changes is in gray, which means it is turned on. So we are going to insert the text Game Studio in the to line so that the memo is addressed to all Boulder Game Studio employees. So let's go back. So all Boulder Game Studio, and it's going to show it in red because it's showing that we have changed some of those text, some of the text. And then we are going to display simple markup and turn off track changes. So it's going to keep track of the change, but we're going to come up here to the tracking and we're going to turn this to simple markup, which is going to hide that, but it's still there. So that track change is still tracking that change. We just aren't seeing it right now. And that's what we use the simple for. If we want to keep changes that we want to see, we haven't made any changes, but recommended changes that we don't want to accept yet, that's how we hide those. Okay, and then we're going to turn off track changes. So next thing we're going to do is go up to the ribbon, tracking gallery, we're going to click the track changes button and turn that off. So if it's once it's off, this right here will no longer be in a dark gray color. All right, step 4. In step 4, we're going to insert a clustered column chart in the blank paragraph below the December game updates table to respond to Brian Sanderson's request. We're going to copy the December game updates table and then paste it in the chart spreadsheet window. We're going to remove the total data series from the chart and then close the chart spreadsheet window. So let's go back to our document. And here we have a table within our document, and we are going to use this table to create a chart that we are going to bring into the table as well. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come put our cursor down in the new paragraph or blank paragraph after the December game updates table. So this space right here after the table. Then we are going to insert a clustered column chart. So we're going to go to Insert. We're going to go over to the Illustrations gallery. We're going to click on Chart. Then it's going to recommend a clustered column. If it doesn't, make sure you choose column and then choose the clustered column. I'm going to select that one and I'm going to say OK. And so now it's embedded kind of a blank chart for us. And what it does is it embeds this neat little Microsoft Excel feature within, or it's a Microsoft Excel data table right into this document and ties it to this chart. So the next thing it says is it wants us to, oops, that's not what I want. It wants us to copy the December game updates table and then paste it in the chart spreadsheet window. So we're going to go back to our document. We're going to scroll up and this is our table. So we're going to copy it. I'm going to click the 4-way arrow till I have the whole table selected, and then I'm going to right click on it and then I'm going to copy. Now I'm going to come down here to my little Excel sheet. Now if you click on it, it'll make it bigger and that's okay. And I'm going to come into cell A1 and I'm going to paste. So I'm going to Control V and paste that table from the Word document into this little mini Excel window. And now I'm going to close this out. And then what it's going to do is it brought that table in to that chart right here. Now you can't see the table. So if I double click on it, let's not do that. Let's do this. Let's go up to the top. We have chart design and format, and then we're going to edit data. And if you click the edit data in let's just do edit data, it's going to pop open that little window where we pasted our table. Okay. So this is our little mini Excel window that's tied to this table that allows us to enter data without going externally to Microsoft Excel. Okay, so now you should have a chart that looks like this: Second Chance, Sirius, Underground Cities, Utopia, new characters, new tools, and world updates. All right, so now we are going to, last thing we're going to do is remove the total data series from the chart and then close the spreadsheet window. So we're going to go back to the document and then we are going to remove the total data series. To do that, we have to go up to the ribbon under Chart Design, choose Select Data, and then it's going to show you your data sources. So you've got new characters, new tools, world updates, Second Chance, Sirius, Underground Cities, and Utopia. Now it tells us to remove the total series. We don't have that. For me, I don't have that. If you do, you would just delete the total series from there, right here, and then you would close it out. And it didn't catch that when I did it. And so let's just scroll up. Yeah, we didn't have any total. And so we're just going to close that out. All right, so this is what your chart should look like. All right, so we inserted a clustered column chart in the blank paragraph, copied the game, December game updates. Let's just make sure we had that right. Yep, December game updates. And, oh, let's see. And then the total. Yep, see, and it didn't bring across the total when I pasted that in, so that's good. And then we remove the total data series if it came across, and then we close the chart spreadsheet window. Okay, the next thing we're going to do in step 5, let's check off step 4. In step 5, we are going to delete the chart title placeholder object since the placement of the chart makes the title unnecessary. So let's do that first. So we're going to come here to the chart, click on the title, and then I'm going to go over to the right, and let's see, I'm going to uncheck the chart title to turn it off. That's the better option than trying to delete that box. And so we know we don't need that title because it's self-explanatory in the memo that we're putting together. All right, so that's that first part. And then we are going to add number of updates as the primary vertical axis to make the chart easier to interpret. And to do that, we're going to select our chart, and then over on the right we have the plus sign. We're going to click the plus sign for chart elements. We are going to go down to Access Titles, and we're going to click that arrow, and we are looking for the primary, let me make sure I read this right, primary vertical axis title. So we're going to go to click on primary vertical, and it's going to turn on a text box over here on the left that's going to allow us to add that primary vertical axis title. So I'm going to click off of there for a minute, and then let's go find out what the axis title is. It's going to be called number of updates. So we're going to go back to our chart. I'm going to select the text for axis title, and I'm going to delete that and call that number of updates. Let's make sure that's correct. Yep, number of updates. All right, so now we've updated that chart. So now we are done with step 5. Let's go on to step 6. In step 6, we're going to open the workbook called Platforms. Then we're going to copy the data from range A1 to E30 or A1 to E6. And then in the blank paragraph in the Market Update Platform section on the page, we're going to paste the Excel data as a link using source formatting. And then we're going to break the link between the share of revenue by platform table and the source data in Excel because the data is not going to change. So let me show you what we're talking about. So let's go ahead and open Platforms. So I'm going to go down to my support or my downloads folder, and I'm going to click on the Platforms one to open that file. And this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and enable editing. Now what it says is it wants us to open that workbook, copy the data from A1 to E6. So I'm going to go to Excel that I opened. I'm going to choose A1 to E6. I'm going to copy the whole table. I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to copy. Then we're going to go back to our document, and we're going to paste the Excel data using a link as a link using source formatting. So we're going to put that in the blank paragraph in the Market Update Platform section. So let's find that. Market Update Platform section. We have this blank space here. We are going to come up here to the ribbon, and we are going to paste this one. Link and keep source formatting. Let me make sure I read that right. Yes. Excel data is link using source formatting. So we're going to come up to the ribbon, click the down arrow for paste. It's the third one in with a little chain and a paintbrush. So link and keep source formatting, and then we're going to go ahead and paste. And we've brought in that table, and it's going to format it like everything else in this document. Okay, so now we've got that inserted in. Now we have to break the link, and the link is tied up in the settings of this document. So what we do is we're going to go to File, and then we're going to go all the way down to, let's see, Info, which is the fourth one down. And then over here on the right under Properties, if you go to the bottom, we've got related documents, open file location, and edit links to files. So go ahead and click on that edit links to files. And it's showing us that we are linked to that Excel file. So what happens is if you link to an Excel file in a Word document and you keep them linked, you could type in the Excel file and it would update, Excel would update your document as well. But we just want this to be a screenshot only of what this data is as of today. So we're going to click on this document that is linked to our memo, and we're going to come over here to the right and we're going to break that link to keep the data static. We don't want it to change if we were to change the Excel file. It says, are you sure you want to break the link? And then we're going to go ahead and say yes. Once we're done here, we're going to go ahead and go back to our document, and now we've taken that link out. Okay, then we are going to go ahead and close that Excel workbook that we were working on. And while I'm there, I'm just going to close out that one as well. Okay, so we broke the link and between the two, and we closed out the Excel workbook that we had from our supporting files. All right, now we're on to step 7. Step 7, respond to Brian Sanderson's second comment by changing the pie chart to a 3D pie chart to add visual interest. So we're going to go down and we're going to find, says, his comment says, can you format this chart to have a more visual impact? So we're going to go down to this chart, which is right below his comment. And we're going to change the pie chart to a 3D pie chart to add visual interest. So right now we have a 2D pie chart with, if you click on that pie chart to select it, we're going to go up to chart design. And then we're going to go to change chart type, and then it's going to open up and it's going to say, okay, you've chosen a 2D pie chart. We're going to go to the right one and we're going to choose 3D pie chart, which is going to tilt it a little bit, add some shading to make it look more 3D-ish. And so you should have something that looks like this. Okay, then we're going to apply style 1 to the pie chart. So to match the style of the clustered column chart. So let's do that. So with the chart selected, we're going to come up to the chart styles and we are going to choose style 1, which is the first one in the list. So go ahead and click on that one. And then we are going to change the colors to colorful palette 1. So back to our document with this chart selected, we're going to go over here to the left and we're going to choose colorful palette 1, which is the first one in that first column and row. Click that and it's changed from all red to some multicolors. And then that's it. So we've responded to Brian Sanderson's comment by changing the pie chart. It doesn't say anything about the comment, so just leave it there. We've changed the colors of the pie chart. We've made it 3D and we are done with that step. Now we're on to step 8. So we're going to add developers per platform as the chart title above the chart. So let's go do that. Developers per platform. So with the chart selected, we are not getting our plus buttons. So let's go up here to our ribbon on chart design, go to the left, and we are going to go ahead and turn on the chart title above the chart. And we are going to then call it developers per platform. So we're going to take out the word chart title and type in developers per platform. Now let me make sure I spelled that right. Did we capitalize the per? No. So developers is capitalized, per is not, platform is capitalized. So you should have something that looks like this. The next thing we're going to do is display the legend at the top of the chart. Okay, so we have our chart title in there. Now we want to turn the legend on and make it sure it's at the top of the chart. So going back to our document, make sure your chart is selected, and we're going to come up here to the left in our chart elements, click the down arrow. We're going to go down to legend, and we're going to add the legend to the top, which is the third one down. So what it did is it shifted everything up underneath our title. So we've displayed the legend at the top of the chart, and then we're going to add a dark gray text to border to emphasize the boundaries of the chart. So with the chart selected, so I'm going to click off the chart, then click on it again so we have the whole chart selected. Then we're going to go up to the ribbon on the right. We're going to click on format, and we're going to format this chart by changing the color of the line that goes around it. And so we are looking for a dark gray text to border to emphasize the boundaries. So we're going to go to Shape Outline in the Shape Styles gallery, click the down arrow, and then we are looking for, make sure I read it right, dark gray text 2. So Shape Outline, dark gray, where's dark gray? Text 2. And so that's not the right one, so this is theme color. So let me make sure I read this right. Add a dark gray text to border to emphasize the boundaries of the chart. Okay, so, and we were in the right spot. We wanted Shape Outline. I just went down too far. So dark gray text 2 is actually in this first row. It's the 4th one in. If you hover over that one, we get dark gray text 2. And so it adds the dark gray text 2 line around our chart. Okay, so back to our instructions. We've got the legend at the top, we've got the dark gray border, and then we have one more step. In step 9, we're going to insert the calendar 3 quick table and the blank paragraph at the end of the document to respond to the comment from Rosa. So let's go back to the document, and in the blank paragraph at the end, so right here, we are going to insert a neat feature which allows us to insert a little mini calendar. And so we are going to, let me get back to the instructions. Insert calendar 3 quick table in the blank paragraph. To do that, we're going to go up to the ribbon. We're going to click on the Insert tab. Underneath the Tables gallery, we're going to click the down arrow under Table. We're going to go all the way to the bottom to Quick Tables. Then we are going to choose the, make sure I read this right, calendar 3 quick table. So 1, 2, 3 is this third one down. We're going to go ahead and click on that one. And we've inserted a little mini calendar. And then the next thing it wants us to do is in the cell for December 1st, we're going to press enter after the date number and then add the text smartphone updates release. So what I'm going to do is copy this right out of the steps. Copy this text, and then I'm going to go down to back to the calendar. I'm going to go after the 1, hit enter, and then I'm going to paste. And so then I have smartphone updates released. Now we don't want this in bold, so I'm going to select that and I'm going to turn the bolding off. You can Control B or you can go to the Home tab and turn that off, and then we are going to compare to the end, the final figure, or the final solution. So let's check this. So here's our instructions. Here's our final figure. So this is what the first sheet should look like. So let's go back to our document. First sheet looks like this. Good. Then we have the second sheet. Looks like this. There should be one comment on the bottom right, some extra space here. Okay, so extra space, bottom right comment, looks good. Okay, let's make sure, yep, that looks good. We've got this chart. So let's go back a little further. This chart, text, comment, and then calendar. All right, and that's it. That's all the steps in this project. So make sure you go ahead and submit that in Cengage. Make sure you check your feedback file, and if you have any questions, let me know. All right, so I submitted my file and ended up getting a 96 out of 100 because I missed a step in step 4. And so what happened is when I copied the data out of the table that was already in our memo and pasted it into the cluster and column chart that we inserted, I had not copied that total column, and we had to make sure that was in that data file, and but we hid it in the table. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go back to the document and I'm going to delete this chart. I'm just going to click on it and I'm going to delete it. So now I'm going to go do that again. So we are copying the data out of this table for step 4. So I'm going to copy this. Then we're going to come down in this paragraph right underneath it, we're going to insert a chart, clustered column. We're going to say okay. It's going to pop up this little mini Excel window or spreadsheet window. I'm going to paste that data in that little Excel window. So you should have total over here. And that's what I was marked wrong for, is I didn't have this total. So total should be showing up in here in the little mini spreadsheet. I'm going to close this spreadsheet down. The totals is reflected in this green series of bars across this chart. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up to edit data. Actually, let me take that back. We're going to edit the data. Hold on, let me make sure I'm not reading this right. So that's okay, so the data's there. With our chart selected, let's select our data. Okay, we're gonna check select data, which is going to give us our select data source option. What we're going to do is we are going to just turn off the total, the totals option in here. So we're not deleting it. It's still in this mini spreadsheet, but we are just hiding it from this chart. And then we're going to say okay. And so what that does is it takes it out of this chart, but it is still showing up in our mini spreadsheet. And so then what we would do to fix this, now we would make sure the chart title is correct. And we don't have a chart title because we turned this off. So let's turn the chart title back off. And then we are going to also add the axis title to the left. Let's click on that. So we have this on the left and it's called number of updates. So let's delete this. Number of updates. And then this should be correct now. So the total is not in here. Total series is not showing up in here. But if we double click this and select our data, it should show up here in the legend entries for the series, but we unchecked it to not include it in that particular table or chart, sorry. So I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to close that down, and then I'm going to go back in, resubmit this again in Cengage and see how I did. And so now I downloaded I opened my feedback file, and now 4 is correct. So just make sure when you copy the data table in Word and put it in the chart that you include that totals column, that totals column stays in. So let me make sure I show you. Let me open this file. So we want this is our chart. We're going to select the data, and we're going to see that total is here in the mini worksheet, but we've unchecked it here in the select data source, and that's how you get step 4 to come out correctly.